Welcome to Sound Mind International. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Hello and welcome to Self-Concept and Depression. This is part 2, and in part 2, as I mentioned in part 1, we are going to be talking about and dealing with, do you know who you are? Who are you? In terms of, I ask you this question, and I ask most people this question when I ask them, who are you? They would often tell me their name. They would often tell me, their ethnicity, background, or which country they originated from. But when I ask you, what is your ideal self? I mean, this is the person that you'd like to see yourself 5 or 10 years down the line. This is a question most probably employers ask you. Where do you see yourself, 5 or 10 years down the line? Now, this could be your ideal person. This could be your ideal self. Maybe healthy, maybe owning a business, maybe starting a family. But what is your ideal self? I want you to think and reflect about that, and as well your thoughts about self, because our current thoughts, as I mentioned in part 1, they could be depreciative thoughts. They could be thoughts induced by self-pity, induced by trauma, induced by all sorts of things. But what are your thoughts about yourself? Do you think you're competent? Do you think, that you're somebody worthy of love? What do you think about yourself? And are you what society, your grades, the circumstances around your life, or even accomplishments have produced? Because oftentimes with society, and as I mentioned with your grades, during the lockdown COVID, most students, they were, especially the Black minority students, they were predicted very low grades in terms of marking. The teachers, they were just gonna predict grades through based on how they performed in their mock tests in the past. So are you what your grades say you are? Is that what you think of yourself? Are you the circumstances say you are? Are you what society has labeled you to be, or even prior accomplishments? And another question I want you to ask yourself is, where are you from originally? I'm not talking about, which country, whether you're from, I don't know, any of the African countries, America, or England, whatever you might be listening from this from. I want you to ask you, where are you originally from? And another question I want you to ask yourself is, where are you going? Or where do you see yourself going in this journey called life? Separating self from the concept of others. Oftentimes, we all have a concept that our parents, that society, that our peers, and that our friends, or even our spouse and partner has placed us in that particular category. And oftentimes, this is a form of labeling. So societal circumstances could often label a person either due to prejudice, like maybe their life is not worth more than another race. I'm not going to get into that. But yes, so oftentimes you need to separate yourself, what you think about yourself, and separate that from what society has labeled you, from what your spouse has labeled you, from what even your children, for most of you might be parents, has labeled you, from even what your friends have labeled you, and as well as expectations and the responsibility that they have for you. Are these the responsibilities that you've held yourself accountable to? Because oftentimes, with knowing who you are, it has to be about you discovering yourself, your purpose, where you're from, and what you were sent on this planet called Earth to do. Because from personal experience, when I began to ask myself these questions, I began to realize that, life is not a game. We were not put here on this earth, to work, to pay bills, to find some food to eat, have a family, work, repeat, and then die. I believe there's a higher purpose as to why you were created, and as to why so many people died, but yet you and me, we're here. So it's very good to be honest in terms of separating your expectations, your responsibilities, and how you view yourself, as opposed to what other people view you as, and their responsibility or expectations from it. Because oftentimes other people, they could have very unrealistic expectations that, you feel like you're forcing yourself to go through this journey called life. You feel like you have to force yourself in that business. You're forcing yourself to study that course. You're forcing yourself to continue in that dead end job, all because of expectations and responsibilities that people have placed on you. Acceptance. Sometimes you have to accept, as I mentioned in part one, you are a work in progress. And yes, responsibility, if you have parents, if you have bills, yes, they need to be paid. Yes, you need to live. Yes, you need to eat. And yes, you might have children and possibly a spouse or family that is dependent on you to live also. So yes, accepting personal responsibility, that is very important. But as well as accepting that you haven't reached where you need to be. Maybe accepting that you're still in that process, you're still in that state of self-discovery of who you are. And as well as accepting these are the skills that you have, these are your abilities. You don't try and step beyond your means or bite off more than you can chew. Accepting your personal appearance, meaning you're not, for example, putting on this financial responsibilities or financial burden on you by purchasing stuff, to try and go out on social media and post to other people, or trying to show off to your neighbors, or trying to show off to somebody like you got it like that, when really you don't know, like, no, you ain't got it like that just yet. And as well as the resources that you have available around your environment, enabling you to take control of the circumstances of your life. Reindoctrination. I say reindoctrination because, as I mentioned, you need to separate your self-concept based on the perception, the responsibilities, and the labels that your parents, society, your spouse, your children, your friends have placed upon you. So you need to know, in terms of reindoctrination, that you are a son of God and you are made in His image. Now, if you're made in His image, this already empowers you to know that if you are the son of God and He is your father, He has that responsibility as your father to take care of you and to reveal to you, why He created you, like, why are you here on earth? Like, what is your purpose on earth to fulfill? Not what society has conditioned you to be, conditioned you to think, conditioned you to do. Because you did not come on this earth empty. As I mentioned, you didn't come here to, just work a job, pay bills, and find some food to eat and then die. You came to this earth with a particular assignment and with a particular purpose. Because and we look at the story of Moses and Aaron. For most of you, know who they are. God said, for this very purpose did He create, Aaron for Moses, because Moses had a stammering tongue, so he needed, Aaron to, do most of the communication and speaking for him. And God said, if He didn't create Aaron, like, he wouldn't have a purpose of being alive. So I want you to believe that, all of us have a purpose. You did not come on this earth to occupy space or to watch time pass by. You have gifts and talents that maybe you're not even aware of, they've never been tapped into. And as well as, that scripture when Jesus said, in my Father's house there are many mansions. If it was not so, I will not go to prepare a place for you. Oftentimes religion has misquoted that place. Oftentimes in terms of dealing with bereavement or the loss of a loved one, they say, okay, in my Father's house is a place for me. That place, mansion, is actually a place of authority. That meaning there is a place of authority for you to occupy. There's a place of authority for you to have influence and power over. Finding a balance. Oftentimes, we need to find a balance between the two. You don't want to get carried away with your personal ambitions and forgetting, as I mentioned, if you have family and children and other people who are dependent on you. So often striking a balance is important. So this begins, as I mentioned, you separate self-concept from societal and others' expectations and concept that they have built up of you. And you need to know yourself, number one. Know who you are. As I mentioned, you are a son of God. You are the child of the Most High God. You are not here to pass by time. You're not here to be involved, and keep going with the trend. You're not here to keep consuming whatever the media, whatever society, whatever other law, policy, or legislation they come with it. You are not just here to keep going with the flow of life, because let me tell you, if you do not have a date with death, death will creep up on you. So know yourself, know where you're from, because this will enable you to take the circumstances of life and control of depression. So sometimes when depression keeps knocking on you, they're like, you know what? No, I know who I am. I know why I'm here. I know where I'm going. I have goals set in place. I'm separated. No, I'm not going to get depressed because I'm going to separate myself from what other people's labels, other people's responsibilities that they have placed on me. Remember in the course that we did about thought patterns? It's accepting healthy responsibility. It's accepting that there are other possible contributing factors in terms of the circumstances around your life. So yes, I do encourage for you to identify your personal responsibility, but you have to understand there are other contributing factors to it. And again, know your abilities, maximize your opportunities that are around in your area. Because let me tell you, God is faithful. You do your part, He'll meet you halfway. And have a vision for life. As I mentioned, if you have a vision, even though sometimes it will need passion and motivation to keep you going, but this will help you in terms of knowing who you are as a person, identifying your purpose so that each day you're not living your life by default. And each day, you don't find yourself or depression or even death, slowly creeping up on you. Over to you now. I want to thank you very much for listening. Try replay on this session, part 1 and part 2. Know who you are, and through indoctrination, this could often take time purging out years worth of religion or theology, because sometimes, you could just be a religious person, whatever your religion might be, if you're listening to this, but this does not reveal to you the truth about who you are. Is often the truth that most religions don't want people to know. Why? I'm not sure. But you need to find a balance for yourself. You need to find what works out for you. Like in the time of, yes, maybe you gotta persevere through that job or through that course, as I mentioned, if you have people depending on you. But at the same time, it takes discipline to set some time aside and say, you know what, for this 24 hours, even if you're working 12, 13-hour shift, for just 1 hour or 2 hours, I'm gonna go and read a book. I'm gonna go and do certain activities. I'm going to go and try and explore this talent, enroll in that course to try and find out about my abilities, my talents, and my giftings. Thank you. See you over in part 3.